All right. So anyway, Isaiah 50 verse 5, part 2. Adonai Yahweh patach li ezen ve anki lo mariti achor lo nasogti. Okay, Adonai Yahweh. So the word Adonai here is typically expressed as Adonai or my Lord. But if you break it down, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yod, Aleph prefix means I will, Yod means myself, or so this is my determination. And then the word spelled Dalet, Nun is where you get the word Dan or Dana or dawn. And that's the word to judge, but it's a door and then this noon, which is this jumping. So you could say, well, the door is basically a choice or a determination. And a jumping is to leap into action or invigorated, putting a force at. So if you are the referee in a tennis match, and everybody can see that the ball landed close to the line, the guy whose job it is to make the determination, is this fair or is this foul? Or any game, I'm just using that as an example. You're the guy that has to decide. Well, that's the job of the Adon. There was a friend whose father was called Don Afre. Don, that was from Guatemala, but that's a Spanish word meaning Don, like Don Juan. It's a title of regard. It comes from the same word Adon. It means the one who's responsible, the head guy, the chief, the one that we have an esteem for, the head of the family, perhaps an officer, or perhaps the referee, the guy who has to make a decision. So Adonai Yahweh, we could say, oh, he's like Don Yahuwah, or you could say, I have chosen to give him my regard. That's another way to read the word Adonai. Aleph, I will, or I have, myself, the I, the Yod suffix, Don, I've chosen to leap, I've daleted to noon, according to the voice of Yahuwah. I'm just giving you another way to regard the word Adonai based on its spelling. Or is it just a title? Decide for yourself. Anyway, the next word, patach, pei tav het, means that which opens. Lamed yod, that means my or mine, like ani ladodi vedodi li. I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. That word mine is lamed yod, li. I will open myself. Aleph Zayin Nun, ear, but Aleph Zayin Nun, if you look that up, Aleph means I will. Zion, there's that seventh letter, which means to distinguish. And then Nun, like we said, Dalet Nun is I will choose. Here, I will distinguish. You look at that word for ear, and it also means to balance, like you have a handle on two sides of a pot. They're like little ears that you can pick up and hold. It means to balance in like a belt that goes around. Well, that's like the festivals, the Moedim in the spring and the festivals in the Moedim in the fall, where they balance the year at the beginning of the first month and the beginning of the seventh month. It's exactly the same word, to be armed and equipped like a utility belt where you have something balanced on both sides is the Moedim. Karen, my wife, made a skirt one time where she was writing something about the festivals on it because she was looking at that word and had this realization. Open my ear is also allowing me to see things like that, to see that there's a balance, to see that there's a certain design, kind of like these moose antlers coming out of my head if I sit in just the right spot of this noon samik. A balanced with the wings. And Anoki, I myself, not bitter. Memresh Yod Tav Yod. It's like I will govern for myself against bitterness. Not that there's not reasons to be bitter. When your friends and family die or get sick or get in car accidents or financial problems or your animals or your job circumstances, there's many reasons on the face of the earth to get bitter against Yahuwah. But Aleph Chet Vav Resh, I will Chet Vav Resh, make clear evident as a nobleman. But Achor also means future, Aleph Chet Resh. I will believe in a future. I will look to the future. I will have hope for the future. Lo, that's no or negative. Nun Samik, there's the Nun Samik. But Samik Vav Gimel, Sug, is classify, fenced enclosure, turn away, backslide, disassociated, had reservation. So the Nun in front of the Samik Vav Gimel is the action. So he's saying, I am not going to turn away. I'm not going to backslide or have a reservation. I'm not going to say, this is too hard. I'm going to live towards the future regardless of the circumstances imposed upon me. Well, wait a second. What about predestination? What about being the elect? What about fate, destiny? This seems to indicate otherwise. This is a proactive determination that says, I'm going to behave as if Yahweh has given me an open ear. I'm going to believe and conduct myself, and I'm going to take the effort. That word anoki is translated I am. It's the first word of the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20, where Yahuwah says, Anoke Yahweh Eloheka. I am, but it also means to plummet myself like a plumb line, take a weight on a string, drop it, and it holds perfect verticality. So it's that same picture as Anok. I will hold myself responsible for the future without bitterness. That word clear and evident, you might say, is an opposite counter to the word in the sentence above it, which was Yod Aleph Pei, which is dark foliage. What I'm saying is that if you lay these things out, you can see as a poetic writing that sometimes one word will be used as a direct opposite or a synonym, a very similar word to something used elsewhere in other verses and sentences. Verse 6, goy, which would be nations, but Hey Gimel Hey is the word Haggah, which is navigate, like a ship out on the sea, having to read the stars. But it also means to ponder, to mutter, to meditate, steering wheel, helm, rudder, and phonetics. The word Haggah, or goy here, or the plural goyim, literally when David was meditating or pondering on Yahuwah's words and writings, it was spelling words letter by letter, word for word. And the various nations who spell words differently and navigate differently think differently. Scientists, again, have done studies that if your primary language is, say, Japanese, or if it's French or Greek or Latin or English, or you're going to even think about Hebrew differently based on your predisposition of orientation. Your language structures your perspective on the world, on your place in the universe. So the great unifying factor of bringing thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on bringing the 12 tribes back together, is the restoration of this language. It is the one unifying factor, kind of like the 4th of July for the United States. It's like, hey, Independence Day. What's the history of this day? Well, it's not exactly what we think it was. But it's used as a way to kind of tie everybody together, kind of, sort of. But it won't really work because there's a lot of bad stuff going on. But it's the Moedim, the spring feast, the fall feast, the festivals, Pesach, Hakamatzot, Shavuot in the spring, and then you've got Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shemini Atzeret in the fall. These will bring the nation together, especially when you see that they're correlated to the letters of the alphabet, which is what this study is all about. It's the language which will bring the nation back together, the confederation of the 12 tribes. This says in verse 6, Goy natati, undermine me, la makim, maka, mem kaf is to strike, and lachi, which is the word for jaw or jawbone or cheek, la marat, memresh tet is to pull out hair on his face. So Isaiah is saying he's so convinced that though he gets undermined, beaten, stricken, so some people say, oh, that's what they did to Yeshua here. Yeshua is a model. I will not hide my face, Samek Tav Resh, from shame, humiliation, and reproach. That's kalam, where we get the word calamity, kaf lamed mem, and spit, or minimalization, resh kuf. So wait a minute, why should that be the threat for studying these things? Undermined, striked, rip hair out of your face, humiliation, reproach, spit on, and minimalized, marginalized? Well, Yeshua didn't turn back from this. Isaiah, Yeshayahu didn't turn back from this, nor should we. I mean, I'm not looking forward to any of that happening, but Isaiah is saying here, set your trajectory. There's a phrase like flint, or like hardened nose like flint, and just did that video on Mountain Air 7 YouTube a few, I think it was last year, a couple years ago, damn the torpedoes. And it was about this attitude. Forget the name of the guy, Farragut, maybe, down in the Battle of New Orleans with the British, and I think it was the War of 1812. And they had to, back in the days of the wooden sailing ships, and they had to break through a British blockade to get into New Orleans. And he said, we got to make a run for it. It's like, yeah, but they're going to sink us. There's torpedoes. Well, we haven't got a chance. And the captain of the ship, the admiral, I guess he was, or he said, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. It's like, we just got to go for it. If they kill us, they kill us, but we just got to go for it. That's basically where we are now, which was why the title for that particular video we did, I think it was a 3-part video, Mountain Air 7. Just so you might know, people around here, I did a whole bunch of videos on that other YouTube channel of a friend in down by Yosemite, and they were along the same lines as these teachings. It's mountain, then AIRE, and then the digit number 7, Mountain Air 7 YouTube, if you want to see some of the other videos, if you don't know about that. But anyway, the point is, it's that attitude. Well, that's the Ayin Resh attitude. Vigilant, watchful, knowing that there's enemies, but we have to do this anyway. Why? Verse 7, Adonai Yahweh, Azer Li, he's my help. Elkan, certainly, without a doubt, Lo, Nun, Kaf Lamed Mem Tav Yod. Well, they're trying to Kaf Lamed Mem, shame, humiliation, insult, and reproach, but I will not be humiliated, insulted, and reproached. Alken, certainly, Shin Mem Tav Yod. Well, Mem Tav is the word for dying, dead, but Shin Mem is name place. So you could say, even if I die, I have a place. My face like flint. Chet Lamed Mem Yod Shin is the word flint. Chet Lamed Mem with a Yod Shin is still part of the word, but Chet Lamed Mem means to dream, recover, strong, healthy. It's basically, I have a dream. I'm going to set my face like flint. Damn the torpedoes. We're doing this thing Yahweh gave us, just like David facing Goliath. It's the attitude we have to have. Do you know who your Elohim is? Do you know who Israel is supposed to be? We have inherited 3,000 years of insanity. The consciousness is, you might say, altered our DNA, so we're scared little weenie dogs. Scared little weenies. It's not who we're supposed to be. We have to reform our DNA to be the Kadoshi of Yahweh. Eloheinu, our Elohim, the Elohim of Israel. We are supposed to be somebody that we have no memory of being. Because we turned away from Yahweh's words, the natural effect, the three rings of the menorah again, the natural effect is, because we turned away from Yahweh's words, we were soured and modified. Number two, our enemies came in, took advantage, and perpetuated the lie. Number three, Yahweh himself turned his face away, allowed the devil to come and ravage us, and made sure we had no access to these words or their meaning for nearly 3,000 years. And here we are at the threshold of recovery and turning that all around. And then the next four words of this sentence, verse 7, Ve, Vav, Aleph, Dalet, Ayin. Dalet, Ayin is knowledge. So I know, or I'm absolutely aware of, Ki lo abush, that thus, because of this, having this attitude, there will be no I am ashamed. Bush, Bet Vav Shin means to be ashamed, which is a synonym with Kaf Lamed Mem. Because I am well aware of this knowledge, because I absolutely know the truth of the meaning of these letters, there is no place of shame. It can't happen. We will not be disillusioned by this reality. See, this whole thing is building a consciousness. Verse 8, Kufresh Vav Bet, draw near battle lines. Mem, Zadi Dalet Yod Kuf Yod. Well, that's my righteousness. Well, none of us are righteous. No, not one. The word Zadik is not just righteous, it's victory, deliverance, and salvation. He's saying, any battle we enter, we will be victorious with Yahuwah when we are aligned with his words, his promises, his identity. The truth of the relationship between Yahweh and Israel is that we can't lose. If Farragut, I believe his name is, was going to run the British lines, and he knew all those guys had, they didn't have explosive torpedoes. All they had was rubber band guns. I'm going to shoot rubber bands at you. It's like, their torpedoes are nothing but rubber bands. Let's run for it, because that's where the treasure is. That's where the engagement is. We're going to run these lines and get through to the other side. The place of Zadik, my victory, is in the battle, is in the Kufresh Vav Bet, drawing near. Who can contend with me? Me, Yariv Ati, Nun Ayin Mem Dalet Hey, stand Yod Chet Dalet, one who me Baal, Mem Shin Pei Tet Yod, Yod Gimel Shin Aleph Lamedi. He's basically saying, who wants to engage me in this fight? Come on, step up. Let's have it. You think you can outsmart and outweasel and outmaneuver, understanding these words, understanding these letters, understanding the covenant that Yahweh has with Israel? You think you got anything? Bring it on. Let's have it. That's what he's saying here. Materialize toward me. Let's go. You're going to argue against Yeshua being the one identified by every one of these letters? And even though you crucified him, he came back to life? You're gonna argue against that. Verse 9, behold, Adonai Yahweh, he will help me. Ayin Zayin Resh. That's the Azer, is the exact same word used for wife. Azer Keneggo. kenegdo. That's where you get the word nag. Nun gimel dalet, nagged. Nag, to nag is to be the opposite and always bringing this other conflict. Who is he who will condemn me as guilty? Behold, kalam, the one who will stand and say that what we're doing is perverse, that what we're doing is, by studying these words, trying to engineer our own cult, start our own church, start our own religion, who will condemn this study as being wicked and evil. Whoever that is that will stand up and speak against these words as being the very iteration of words out of the mouth of the Creator in the heavens and the earth will themselves be reproached, insulted, and condemned as guilty. There's that mirror relationship. If this is true, this is true. And if this is not true, Yahweh, correct us, please. But I am absolutely convinced that this is the truth. He goes on to say here at the tail end of verse 9 that like a garment, bet gimel dalet is the word for garment or cloak or covert. Yod bet lamed, like the word nun bet lamed, means foolish or worn out or as nothing, like the word Nabal, who was the name of that guy that was Abigail, who became David's wife. That was her previous husband. She said his name is Nabal, and Nabal he is, foolish and worn out, nothing. A moth will devour them like a garment. Anybody who stands up against the truth of these words, that Yahuwah himself will help us, because this is his revelation of his true identity in covenant relationship with the people of Israel. Though for 2,000 years, we've been told it was nailed to the cross, and for 3,000 years, since the days of David, it has been scrambled, obfuscated, turned upside down, inside out, completely altered. Since the days of Daniel, 2,500 years, the word were changed, but this is reality. Verse 10, Me bakam yirah Yahweh, shema bakol obedo asher halakha. Who of you fears Yahweh? Hear the voice, and this says his servant, but obed is not just the word servant, it means obey. If you hear the voice of Yahweh, obey him. Asher, who? That which, walk straight, validate, authenticate, halakha, walk. Chet shin kaf yod mem is chosek. Whoever of you who walks in dark, ignorant illiteracy and without light, that in ein nun gimel hey naga means shining bright. It's also the planet Venus, but it also means to revise and correct a text. It's like, even if you don't know the truth, even if you don't know how to read these Hebrew words, even if you don't have the time or the mental capacity to really get it, if you get it in your heart and trust, there's the word yod bet tet het, trust, secure, and confident, b'shem Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh. What's the name of Yahweh? What is his name? How many times do you hear on Christian radio, they're singing about, oh, we love your name, we're going to honor your name, we worship your name, but they never tell you his name. It's the name Yahuwah, not the name Jesus, not the name Lord God. He gave us Yahweh, Exodus 3. Yahweh is his Shem Zakar, the name of remembering generation after generation, or that which will perpetuate the generation. And the word Zakar means masculine. It's the masculine side of the relationship between the masculine and the feminine that has the DNA to perpetuate the family lineage. Yahweh, Yod He Vav He, is the DNA to perpetuate the family generation after generation. The feminine is the vehicle where the DNA is planted. That's the word Zakar. Yod He Vav He, he said, was his Shem Zakar. Zakar is translated memorial, or to commemorate, or to remember. but it's to perpetuate the longevity of the DNA. In Yod He Vav He, not in Jesus, not in Lord God Jehovah. To take away the testimony that's carried in the Moedim and replace it with the testimony carried in Christmas and Easter is a modified infertility. It modifies the DNA to take away the language and the commemorative Moedim of the year, and to take the two, like the ears, the ezen, of the Moedim, like the utility belt, the spring Moedim and the fall Moedim, and you replace them with Christmas and Easter, which are not opposite sides of the year, like a balanced. I'm saying, as you study this language, you see things all over the place. You neuter the Father by taking away his name. Yod He Vav He, He Vav He. The two He's are the testimonies, the testifiers of the Vav connecting apparatus of the Father. Yod He Vav He carries within it the emblematic or the thematic, the insignia, the symboled male genitalia. He Vav He. Two testes and a connecting device. And we've replaced it with Christmas and Easter and the name Jesus, which is not what he gave Israel. So what do you do with that? Do whatever you want with that. You want to connect with it? It's Yod He Vav He. You trust in the name Yahweh. And then the word Vav Yod Shin Ayin Nun. Yod Shin Ayin means care for and gaze at. It's a synonym with Hey Bet Tet. Yeshua said, whoever looks at the Nun Samik, gaze at the aspect, look at the meaning of these letters, rely, lean, and support, Shin Ayin Nun, on his, the last word of verse 10, Bet Aleph Lamed Hey Yod Vav. Aleph Lamed Hey is the word these. These, what did he give us? It's also the word translated God or to deify. The Shem of Yahweh is not just the four-letter name, but it's to realize he gave us these 22 letters to analyze, to wrap our mind around, to see the organization fit to this Mishkan pattern, this structure, this paradigm, and that everything he ever said is locked in according to this pattern. As an alternative, verse 11, behold, all of them, Kuf Dalet Chet is the word for, Kuf Dalet is focused attention, Dalet Chet is pushed or postponed or regression. Kuf Dalet Chet is kindled, burned, sick with fever, or burn a hole through, like with a torch. And then the word fire, and then the word Mem, Aleph Zion Resh, which is girded and encompassed away from my zone. Aleph Zion Resh Resh is the word for zone. Then the next word, Zion Yod Kufav Tav, sparks, comets, like fireworks display, a blast of storms. Zikot is a fireworks display. Lamed Kaf Vav is go, Baor, in the light of Aleph Shin Kaf Mem, your fire, in the sparks or the fireworks of Ayin Resh. There's that word Bet Ayin Resh, or Ayin Resh as in Ayin Resh Kaf. Ayin Resh Tav Mem, blazed. Bet Ayin Resh means to blaze, set on fire, burn, or consume. But Bet Ayin Resh is also brutish, stupid, illiterate, and ignorant. It's also removed and destroyed, where you get the word boor, B-O-O-R. Someone was telling me, hi Sigrid, that the word boor is Flemish for a farmer or one who is uneducated. Doesn't mean you're a stupid idiot, but it's used as a word of degradation, meaning, oh, this guy doesn't go to school. He just has to get out and work real hard. Blue collar worker instead of a white collar. From that, then it says, me yedi, from my hand, hayata, the existing, Zion Aleph Tav, very similar to the word Zion Hey, which means this, lakam, to you all, lamed mem, ayin zadi bet hey. Ayin zadi bet is the word grieved, sad, pain, hurt, idle, take form, image, or it's to put a leather skin over a saddle frame. So all of you who have an idol, okay, now if you know how to make a saddle, they take a wooden frame, like almost like a skeletal base, and then they stretch the leather over it, and the leather takes on the, like the skin takes on the form. And then the last word here is tav shin kaf bet vav nun. Well, tav shin can both be prefixes. Kaf bet vav nun means clasped or fashioned. So just the way you would stretch a skin over a framework, or like if you were an archaeologist and you find some dinosaur bones and you put the bones together, that's the skeleton. And then you, if you study anatomy, biology, you know the types of muscles, the size of muscles necessary to move these, the weight of what these bones of the legs would be. And so you design these dinosaurs as reptiles. Only now they're telling us they're more like birds than lizards. Gosh, so maybe they got it all wrong. But the point is, when you have an idol that by which, lamed mem, by which this idol makes you grieved, sad, pained, hurt, vexed, nervous, then the fashion of the skin you put over that basis is that your life will be grieved, sad, pained, hurt, vexed, nervous. Now, I'm not saying that Jesus Christ wasn't the inherited name of the guy Yeshua, the Mashiach of Israel, and that they really crucified him. I'm not saying that that's not what happened. But when you make an idol of your God being the crucified, beaten loser, yes, he did rise from the dead, but when your idol is the beaten, crucified loser, and if that's the skeleton, then the skin over the skeleton is going to be that you got the next 2,000 years of a beaten, crucified loser. That's not Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel. He's our champion who owns and rules this world and wins the conflict every time. And this last word, tav shin kaf bet vav nun, the word shin kaf bet means to lie down, ravished, lower millstone, oppressed. It's what you do to a prostitute, and it means stratum or class or layer. And it seems to be saying if you make an idol of brutish, stupid ignorance where you lose the conflict, and all you expect is to lose the conflict, and your God is one who loses the conflict, but yet you get to go to heaven in the end, then all you have in front of your mind is that your enemies will win, you will be tribulated, the beast, the devil, the Antichrist, the New World Order, the Gates, or whoever else they enlist, the Goliaths they enlist, and you say, oh, we're just sheep for the slaughter, we're just going to die now, because even our own Savior couldn't stand up to Rome and the Jews, and he let himself be killed, so we'll just let ourselves be killed, so that's what we have to do. Well, that's not what the 4th of July was about in the American story, now was it? That's not what the Maccabees were about, although the Maccabees ended up being tortured and ripped apart by Antiochus Epiphanes. So what we have in history is an absolute distortion and convolution compared to the message that Yahweh gives Israel. Why would he do that? Why would he send Yeshua to be crucified, beaten the heck out of it, ripped the beard out of his face, and as we read elsewhere, that it will make his visage not even look human? If that's not the model we're supposed to hope for and expect and believe will happen to us. And then you see what's happening in Nigeria, where Boko Haram, the Islamic terrorists, come in and chop up the Christians with machetes and burn them out of their houses. Where's the God of the Christian faith? Why doesn't he step in? And yet we read in this text that it's what we expect. The Elohim of Israel said it's your own iniquities that have done this to you, and don't blame it on your ancestors. We need to learn to read his words. We need to have a tongue, skilled, precise, learned the knowledge of his ways. Verse 4. We have to somehow believe in the future. The end of verse 5. Without bitterness, I'm not going to turn away. I don't have any reservation. I have to set my mind and I have to be vigilant and watchful. Ayin resh. Because we have enemies. That's also ayin resh. Knowing we have enemies. Knowing this is a very real conflict and it's not predestined that we are destroyed, that we are ravished. Lie down and let me walk on you is a sentence from another verse in another chapter. I believe it's in Isaiah, which is the last word of this chapter. When you believe that your own champion has to lie down and be ravished, then so shall we. And that's the message that's been preached my whole life and for the last 2,000 years. Did they do it to Yeshua? Yes, but that's not the whole story. There was something else going on. Unless you know what else is going on, and if that's what you think is going on, then that's all you have a hope for. Why is he saying in verse 11, behold, you guys have burned a hole right through the middle of what I gave you, and you have fireworks of ignorance. Okay, you think it's from my hand. Go in the fireworks of your ignorance and be grieved and sad and hurt. Be ravished by your enemies. Go ahead. What? What is he saying here? This seems to be the opposite of him saying, in the name of Yahweh, we will succeed, we will be prosperous, we will have victory. Bring on the conflict. Bring on the conflict, because I know in whom I have believed. Why? Because he's in these letters. He's in these words. I'm mixing a New Testament verse with verse 8 here. Bring the battle lines. Not because we believe we're going to lose. We believe that Yahweh will. You see, Yahweh said that he was going to turn his face and go away and hide until the day. What? Until the day what? Until we do what? Until we return to his words and somehow beckon him back. But he's going to go and take his Kadoshi, his Israel, into the wilderness and seduce her. The word wilderness can also be read as language, the place of words. It's all about coming back to the place of words. Okay, look at that. Was the end of verse 50 or chapter 50 of Isaiah. But I want to bring something else out. But before I do that, I'm going to open it up to you guys. Is there anything else you want to say? And in order to talk about why is this verse, chapter 50, we're going to look at chapter 40 of Yeshayahu. So that's the Isaiah. That's the very next thing we're going to do, is say, why is Yahweh talking about the bill of divorce? You have to go back to where the subject starts, which is chapter 40, which we'll do in a moment.